Oh, what do you mean?
What's another name for it?
I just call it art.
Okay, so it's called contact cement?
Yeah.
And what does contact cement mean? Does anyone know?
That's what they use to tack down Formica on countertops.
Okay.
Does it instantly bond with the surface on contact?
Yes, if it's dry, we usually put 2 coats. And if it's dry, well, first of all, we need our heat gun to loosen the top. So some people are really good at putting the, does anyone want to plug this in for me? All right, how is this gonna do this? So when your barge liquid cement won't open with all your strength, a little bit of heat. Yeah. And then don't burn yourself. There we go. So this is very smelly. Use it near a window. Use it in a well-ventilated area. That's a given. This isn't a well-ventilated area. So I'm going to close it for now. But I'm going to cut a couple pieces. And I'm going to demonstrate that if you were to apply it to 2 separate pieces, let it dry for 5 to 10 minutes. Apply another coat. Let it dry for 5 to 10 minutes. Touch them together, and it's permanent. It's a permanent contact. And that's the basis of most of the cosplay creations that people are creating, is they're using contact cement because once the pieces are cut, once the pieces are glued, meaning the edges, glue is applied to the edges, you can just adhere them together. Let me do something right now, cut a piece out, and then we'll come back to it later. Apply the glue like so. And then I'm going to continue my presentation and we'll come back to these 2 characters later. You can apply a jam and the cap is a brush. This is probably the more messy way to do it. They make products, they make little products that you pour the glue into that are easier to deal with than doing it this way, but this is the way I do it. I apologize in advance if this fumes bother anybody. Put that over here. Okay. So that talks about barge, liquid cement, quick seal. I used quick seal to seal edges. This is an example of a helmet that was kind of a throwaway. I wanted to attach a camera to it. And I so if you apply this quick seal to the edges, you can close the seams, which is really important when you come to paint. When you come to paint, if you paint on this without sealing it first and closing the seams, they'll show. And they'll reveal your workmanship. So you want your workmanship to be really smooth. You want a smooth helmet with no seams.
Is it a lot different than cost, like painter's cost?
It is something you get at the hardware store. And I think there's a lot of different kinds, so it's a hard question to answer. But this is used, in construction, and it's something that cosplay artists have found is useful for filling in seams, for waterproofing, that kind of thing, using in windows. Yeah, I think that's right.
Is that hard to get off your finger?
No, it's not hard to get off your finger. It might be annoying to get off your finger, but it's not hard. You can wash your finger right away, and then you're all set. Or if it dries on my finger, then it's like when you get glue on your finger, it takes a little while to get off, but you get it. So it doesn't seem toxic, and I equate this reminds me of acrylic paint. frankly. So it's feels and consistency-wise very much like acrylic paint. It does not have fumes, so it doesn't smell. And just like acrylic paint doesn't really smell.
Sand that or?
So instead of sanding, what you can do with this, it's not really sandable because like acrylic paint, it's rubbery. So you can actually get a glass of water, dip your finger in, and using water you can smoothen the edge. But also you want a little bit extra sometimes because it shrinks as it dries. So that's really important to know about the sealant. Balloon latex. So this jar has some of my balloon latex rubber. And I applied that to these two helmets have a good example. The reason they're shiny is because after I constructed it out of foam, I used balloon latex rubber and a spray gun in most cases, or an airbrush gun, and I painstakingly airbrushed it all into the edges so that when I apply the acrylic paint, it's a little shiny. You know, the paint is not shiny of itself, but it's a smooth surface. It's also a waterproof seal, so that means it seals against moisture coming in. Moisture wants to come in and separate the pieces of foam you adhere together with wire with cement, and it can happen. So it's a good idea to seal your foam, especially if you're making a helmet. If you're making an axe or something like that, maybe it's not as vulnerable to moisture because it's not on the body. But body armor and helmets, you want to seal your foam, and this is one option. People use Plastidip, people use similar things like that, but I like this because I don't like having a lot of aerosols inside the studio. And this is a latex. That might be allergic for some people, but for me, it doesn't bother my system, at least not yet. And it's not like an aerosol.
So you said that leaves a shiny finish, like a gloss finish.
Yeah.
Is there something that leaves like a more matte finish?
I would say it leaves a smooth finish, which could take you to shiny if you wanted it to take you to shiny. It depends on the acrylic paint as well. If you're using gloss acrylic paint, then you'll get a gloss finish. If you're using a matte acrylic paint, then you'll get a matte finish. But it smoothens things, so you have the option.
How did you get that? I've never seen anything like that before, the
We
latex.
got a special order it. There's a company that makes it. You want to look up balloon latex rubber. And I have the bottle at home. It can be a little bit expensive. I could do some research at the end and get that answer for you. I wanted to talk a little bit about not just the tools. Well, let me go through each tool, even though it might be a little bit of a back and forth. But then I'm going to really break down the process from end to beginning. So this is my acrylic paint. And I had said I'm going to pass things around, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So we talked about blades. So I'm going to pass these around. And please pass them from one table to the next. And you can make note of the mark, make note of the brand, and this is the Crenshaw blade, so that'll be coming around. Quick seal, just so you know, the tip is open. You can pass that around. And all right, let me go through everything. So sandpaper is obviously for sanding the edges. So when you work with foam, you don't want rough edges, you want to smoothen things. I would use, latex is really bad on your brushes, so I'd use this type of brush, something that I don't mind ruining for latex.
If I can ask, the sandpaper, is there a range of grit that you usually go for?
Yeah. You want to go from rough to fine, and you want to end up fine in terms of grit, just like sanding wood.
I know if you're like 200, 400, 800 grit.
It really depends. Sometimes I will start with 70 because I really want to get it into the right shape first and then smoothing it out. The heat gun is really good for smoothing out the foam too, and it seals. So foam has tiny little cells, tiny little pores, kind of.